Hello, everybody. This is Gynarchic Awakening here. Uh, Before I get to my chores, I thought I'd make another art-related Gynarchy video. And this is going to be advice for Gynarchists who want more non-fetishized Gynarchic artwork. I am somebody who has done a fair amount of drawing. If you want to see my drawings, you are free to ask. I do have them. I used to put them in a portfolio. Now they're just away in some furniture. But I can show you at a later time if you question whether or not I am. I can also link you to my DeviantArt page where I have made artwork. I think one of my art pieces has like 2,400 views. So obviously people do take a look at that stuff. I don't consider myself by any means a master of what it is that I do. I'm not an expert. I am just somebody who has a few different skill sets that I've developed over the years. And my advice for the Gynarchists who want this content is, and I know it might sound a little rude, but you need to either A, do it yourself. You as an individual, you listening right now, you need to either do it yourself or you need to develop the skills. You have to have the self-sufficiency, the discipline to master the skills that you will need to do it. Whatever it is, whether you're using, I don't know, whether you want to draw it or write about it or code. Maybe you want to make a website or a video game or whatever. The reason why I am saying this to you is because when I was serving my previous domina, we went through hell trying to find individuals who would be willing to do artwork, to write, uh, to make any number of artistic and non-artistic contributions to Gynarchy. And what happened was that almost without exception, every single time we would open up dialogues with these individuals, we would talk with them, we would look for them, and the result was nothing. In other words, if you're waiting for other people to do this artwork, you will be waiting a very long time. I don't sugarcoat things on this channel. I feel that you're entitled to the truth, at least insofar as my personal life is concerned. Nothing has ever really gotten done until I decided to do it, whatever it was for my personal thing. Like one thing I saw was there were no templates for communities, and I was upset. And eventually I decided, okay, fuck it, I'm going to make a template just because I wanted to do it. And then I realized it could help other people, inspire them, so I shared it with them too. And the same thing happened for the star system I created. I had a problem where it's like, what happens if I don't find a dominant woman and I end up finding some kind of vanilla woman who's very receptive or open-minded? Is there some way I can still pass along my Gynarchic teachings and philosophy to my children? And I think that that in and of itself can be a very controversial topic, and that probably deserves its own video. Is if you are a Gynarchist male, and you're in a relationship with a vanilla woman, and you still have very strong political opinions about it, you have strong personal opinions. How should you go about raising your children, and is there any way that you can raise them to either adopt this philosophy, to accept it, or at least to be receptive towards it? Um, I think that that is interesting. But see, a lot of the time when I or my domina sought these individuals, they gave us this kind of hope that that they would do something for the greater good of the community. And unfortunately, as time went on, what we found out is many human beings are very selfish or self-centered, or they have serious obligations or taxes on their, I don't know if tax the right word, but there's things that tax their body, their health, their time. And so if you are looking outward, it's just in all likelihood you are not going to find some kind of altruistic being who is going to make artwork for the sake of the artwork or the sake of the community. So there are a few different solutions to this problem. The first one is what I offered you. Uh, I do know I'm not perfect at drawing, but I can provide some pointers and tips for people who want to learn. I think that drawing and doing artwork has a tendency, especially when you put it on DeviantArt, it gets a lot of attention. So I think that's a really great place to start because if you can do it yourself or you can learn how to do it yourself, it's a feeling of empowerment and you didn't need these other people to do it. And I think that, in our culture and even outside of our culture, I'm not talking about Gynarchic culture, I'm talking about American culture, um, and the culture in the West. There is this tendency to kind of, because of the way our economic system is constructed, we make systems where we hire people to do jobs. We don't socialize people to do things for the betterment of the community, but rather for the enrichment of the individual. And that's why, I mean, I remember one time because I didn't have the energy for it or the health for it. I went seeking for an art commission. For like I wanted to commission a piece of art and I contacted a website. Of course, I never went through with it because I found out about their pricing and thought it was through the roof. But nevertheless, I did end up doing that. I did end up pursuing that avenue, and it was the same problem. It was so expensive just for a drawing that I wanted to see. It was like over 200 to 300 pounds. If you convert that into U.S. dollars, you're looking at some serious money that you're going to need to transfer over. And of course, I am the paranoid guy. I at times I have reservations about giving my information on the internet to a website that I just recently made contact with. I don't know anything about them. I don't even know where they post their art. I don't even know what exactly, I mean, I knew what they did, but I didn't know where they were putting it or if I could even take the art that they were making for me off the website. So when you are in a situation where you have exhausted all your options, where you if you have the ideas of the thoughts, that's fine. But let's say you don't have the ideas of the thoughts. I think that this is why collaboration is important. But I also think that there is this idea that, hey, I should be rewarded for my labor, right? I should be given some people believe they're entitled to some kind of monetary compensation, or they want people to notice their work. A lot of artists are like that. You don't make art for nobody. You make art for either yourself or other people. And I think that there has to be an understanding that if you are going to seek out another person to do non-fetishized gynarchic artwork, then at the very least you better have the finances to back it up. You better have whatever they need. Otherwise, there's a good chance that if the money's not talking, the feet start walking. They're going to go away and find somebody who will compensate them for the time that they're about to exchange. And I've always got this feeling that even though people may identify as Gynarchists or into FLRs or not identify as into FLRs, but who are interested in FLRs or femdom, I always get the feeling that there is still this motivation, this drive to seek monetary gain, but not necessarily to prioritize the growth of the community. And so there are a few different solutions, of course. If you really believe that you can't do the artwork yourself, or you just don't have the time, then one thing you could do is you could try to really bust your butt and get a higher paying job like make it to the middle class or upper middle class, and then hire artists to do the non-fetishized Gynarchic artwork that you personally want to see, that you think would be good for the community. So there is that possibility. I'm not saying that everybody has to fit into one box, but what I am saying is this. Please do not make the mistake of just seeking people out and expecting altruism from them, or expecting them to put the community over their own personal lives. Because that was a mistake that I made. And the person I served also made that mistake. We searched for well over a year and a half for writers, for artists, for different individuals who would be willing to contribute. And at the end of the day, the person who was doing the most writing was me. I was the one writing the articles. I was the one I was pretty much at that point writing everything down. And I think the person I served, was editing. So I was the chief writer who was writing out, the template articles, template this, template that. And then there were being additions made and edits made by the other individual. So, and we were all alone in what we were doing. There was collaboration because it was based on the relationship. So I think that within a relationship, an FLR relationship, a DS relationship, there can be a lot more collaboration than between couples or between Gynarchists than I have seen recently. I think that the chance of cooperation is stronger if you are able to find somebody who does have those ambitions. So that is something else to look out for, as well as, like, if you are serving somebody, there are some dominas, some individuals who are willing, who are interested in putting the time in, but there has to be open communication about it. The thoughts and ideas have to be fleshed out, and then the decision needs to be made on where exactly to post this content so that other people can see it and share it, and so on and so forth. Sorry, folks. Sometimes I think I get little pieces of phlegm or something stuck in my throat. I might be sick or have allergies or something. Apologies. The final thing, I think, the advice I would give, aside from what I've already touched upon, I think that when it comes to this community, we have to, when we are in the actual process of creating the non-fetishized Gynarchic artwork, I think that when we start to seriously advocate for it, I believe it's important that we create sort of like a chart of the examples of what fetishized artwork looks like, and then what not fetishized artwork looks like, because there can be, and there might be, some kind of intersection between the two, and it's based on what the individual in question is sexualizing. So here's an example of what I'm talking about. Usually within the Gynarchic community, if a male is prostrating himself before a woman or bowing, that can be seen as fetishistic, especially if the individual in question is naked. And that can stimulate erotic thoughts in different Gynarchists, different people into femdom, into FLR. And yet, if you go to the culture of, you go to Japan, I know I bring them up a lot, but they do matter. Japan, people bow and prostrate themselves, but it's part of their culture. It's not, I mean, I don't know, maybe it does for other people, but when I'm watching somebody prostrating or bowing themselves in Japan, I know that that's because of where they come from, that they're not doing that because they're trying to give anybody erotic thoughts. Like, there's an actual specific meaning and intention behind the act, behind that body language. So I think that there needs to be a discussion about what is strictly considered non-fetishistic and what is not. so that we can avoid intersections.